AllReasonNoLogic.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an exciting replay cast on Lavender Bender. In the blue trunks, we have Twig playing in the AllReasonNoLogic account. It's actually his regular account, but with name changes for video recording purposes, just hasn't changed it back. An OS31 player playing as Cortex. He's leading two randoms that he found this match in, and his opponent is Relax Bro. Yeah, an OS29 player playing as Armada. Interesting split of OSs on this team. We have a 29, a 28, and a 17 for the red team, and a 31, a 24, and a 21 for the blue team. So there's definitely going to be a little bit of better play out of the top two red players, and Twig will have to match that. Joining me in this cast is AllReasonNoLogic's Tank Tom. Tank Tom.
Looks like we've got a relatively high level lobby, or at least higher than what it would be if we were in here.
Yeah, not exactly the multiplayer experts, are we, at this point?
Not particularly.
So
That's alright.
starting us off in the blue team, we actually have 3 vehicle labs, which is quite an unusual mix, but it should be a reasonably strong one.
We've got 2 bots and it looks to be a shipyard, which is another interesting start there as well.
Shipyard is a very interesting choice because, yes, it's going to be devastating to the
light blue player.
Yep.
But it's not going to do much other than that.
And other than
I doubt
that,
they're going to be pushing into anything ranged enough to threaten anyone else.
Exactly. And other than that, one LLT, it leaves all of his land mexes completely exposed. Yep, there are 2 on the island over there, but if you're stuck on only 2 mexes, that's not going to be a strong start to the game.
That is not enough to survive with.
Twig's sending some rascals in, but they're at least temporarily defended by the orange comm, but they are now into orange's base. No offensive units coming out of him, so they have free reign. They should be able to get at least more than 1 mex. He's over microing them, so they're not getting all of their shots on, but that's 2 mexes and hopefully the third. One of the things I definitely would have tried to take is the wind. Early losses to that wind are devastating when you're running on so little.
The metal you can always reclaim. Once the energy's gone, you have to rebuild it from scratch.
Exactly. Though, that said, there's so much overflow from the other players it actually wouldn't have mattered. And we've got more, and this time we've got rovers coming in, and they've managed to take out what looks like a constructor as well. So lots of very good aggression out of the blue players. But the yellow is getting ready to mount a counter-offensive, a couple of ticks around both sides of this hill. In fact, it's going into quite a large group of ticks, 12 ticks heading across the map to see what they can do. It does look like they're going to run into some blitzers. And
however, that many ticks should be able to largely pass through. We can see in the water there's a Elisor.
Doesn't quite have the range.
But it can't quite reach. I heard it fire at least a shot, but I don't know if they're going to do too much more than that.
Definitely doing some damage to the tanks on land, though. These have driven much too close to the water, and the comm is on land getting these defenses up, so doing his best to defend those mexes. Ticks push straight on past.
Through the middle.
Exactly what you predicted. The screen of blitzers was not big enough to stop the ticks, but the teams have seen them, and it does look like the ticks are going to... Nope, they are avoiding the LLT range. Take 1 shot, but no ticks down. Twig calling for an LLT in this gap, but there's no way to get it up in time before those ticks come through. What does green have to defend? And the answer is a great deal of not much. He's trying to chase him around with whistlers, which are definitely not going to get the job done here, and I love this... I love this expansion into these mexes. It's a huge amount of extra mechs, but it looks like it's all...
You have to make sure you've got something, whether it's a couple of units or an LLT, just something to deter against a bunch of ticks running through and cleaning up your base from the backside.
And they're just going to keep powering on through. The back of the base is exposed. Didn't even try to... There's an LLT. Question is, can one LLT stop all these ticks? Definitely will take a few of them down, but they do manage to pass beyond its range, and now they have free reign of the back of green's base. And green miss micro up the top, does not manage to pull through with those blitzers. Thankfully, we have some incisors jumping on up to take care of these, and the Whistler to close it up. Meanwhile, there's been another raid on the orange player, but the orange player not having much eco at all, so unable. So even though it was raided again, not a huge amount of effect. And it does look like as a OS 17, we didn't really pick this up before. He's only a single Chev, so this very well could be his first or second
Yeah,
game.
very new player.
Yep. And so really, really new to this, and definitely struggling a bit with this early aggression. Twig
You
going
can
with.
see that blue's got the map control at this stage. They've taken more of the mexes, whilst they haven't pushed the front line beyond that halfway point. They've managed to consolidate basically everything on their side of the map, and that's reflected in the eco graphs up on the top right.
Though green does need to get back out there and retake those mexes. One thing we did see though, these hills, they're not actually barriers for those ticks. The ticks were able to go over the hills, so even though you might think you're safe bunkering around them, definitely not.
You can see that constructor's on its way to go rebuild those mexes, and then there's one on the front line to do the same as well.
Got to make sure that you use the resources you have available to ticks trying to push in to Twig's lane, but
And they're gonna at least make past some of those defenses.
there is an incisor getting in the way, so even if they do make it past, they shouldn't actually get any damage done, and they don't. So not quite enough ticks there, and good response from Twig getting that incisor in the way.
And that's the difference between having an LOT and a unit nearby to be able to sort of stem the flow and then be able to stop it completely before it does
The
that significant eco damage.
LLTs are great for their cost effectiveness and damage. They are also not mobile, which can be a big problem. And having a
Yeah, you
defense
can
which
see yellow's done well at avoiding those defenses where they can. Whenever they come up against something, they've tended to run around rather than through.
though definitely a degree of lost ticks to them. One LLT able to take down 5 to 6 ticks as they run past. Big incisor attack coming out of Twig into Orange's main force and LLTs, backed up by blitzers as well. So that is huge amount of units. They're just able to pump straight on through.
Enough to basically reset orange again.
I actually like this, breaking it off, trying to get red. Knowing red is in the ocean means there won't be too much in the way of defenses, and only 2 incisors needed to really do more economic damage to orange. All of the pawns that are chasing down this army have decided to chase down those 3 incisors, who still managed to take half of red's base, and
And the
half of
thing is,
orange's base.
those
And
three
now,
incisors are going to be dead
no matter
at that
what.
point, no matter what. Whereas this larger force can actually deal with whatever it finds, which is the edge of the navy.
And this is what we were talking about before. Um, Taking out a lot of the power generation, though Twig has submerged those tanks. They weren't firing for a while. They will definitely be picked up, these assault frigates, capable of defending the
Don't have
shore,
enough range,
but they're
so
not capable of. Yeah,
those tanks are going to be safe there. It looks like orange and yellow are coming over to clear them up,
maybe.
potentially.
Nope, those units are set to go to the front, so these will stick around where they are, and Twig might be. Yeah, Twig is just leaving them where they are so that he can potentially use them in the future.
Yeah, so they're on radars, but no one seems overly concerned by them at the moment.
While the frontline ships were away, the light blue com did try to get in the water and do some damage, and it does look like he did, but he has been chased away once more. I'm actually surprised that he didn't just stay in there. These ships do not have
Can't shoot down.
torpedoes, and the only competition he had was a com at half health, so you definitely could have taken that fight, considering how high health the light blue com is. Tanks come on in and destroy the lab. Great use of these units, just leaving them there and waiting for the right opportunity. The ships being pulled back and forth and never quite where they need to be.
And that's kind of what I was expecting, was that he was going to because he could hit that lab, get back to it once those units had been somewhat forgotten in the corner there.
Very, very strong harassing, and now we have a Whistler push coming in from the green player. Whistler's a very, very strong unit because of their range, and also their vision. However, low damage, slow fire rate, and they're not the fastest units, so very easy to catch out.
But when you're not pushing into too much, and they've got the range to deal with pretty much any defenses at T1.
Not to mention being backed up by Janus.
Yeah, Janus will punch through anything difficult and deal with some of that spam that's running around in packs. Whereas the Whistlers will do a fantastic job of chipping away and providing vision to deal with any of those mexes and defenses that are around.
Not to mention,
I do like seeing the combined assault coming in here, where yellow has to pick whether they're dealing with blue or green.
And they've pushed enough forces into blues incisors that that they're now a lot less of a threat to the green player. So long as the Janus don't waste their missiles, this actually could be a reasonably even engagement. Though a lot of the Janus getting caught out, trying to maneuver the wrong way and not running away fast enough. So the pawns are getting a very, very good trade here. Janus
and that's
taken
the correct
out
move
mostly.
with those pawns. When you're into Janus, you just have to commit to surrounding them, because if you dance backwards and forwards, they'll keep on reloading their shots.
Janus very slow to fire, but it does only take 4 shots to kill a comm. So if you imagine just how much damage that is, it's a lot. Pawns successfully repelling these attacks, but the green player still with enough forces to slowly chip away. However, seeing the yellow player getting on in here with these Lazarus, so long as they get at least half of the reclaim, I'm going to call this well and truly worth. And it does look like they're going to get most of the reclaim, which is fantastic. Reclaim wins games. Absolutely wins games.
In those situations, if you've had a fight, you want to be able, like, even if you can't get the reclaim, you want to be able to stay on top of that sort of previous fight. And I don't mind seeing these pawns essentially sacrificed in the name of getting the rest of that metal.
And watching that little engagement there, the Janus absolute AoE monsters. So many pawns taken out cost effectively, but as you saw there, once the Janus fire off their load, if they're not already running away directly away from it, there's absolutely no chance they're going to get a second volley off with this volume of pawns. And this weight of pawns just is not going to ease up. Looking at the base, looking at yellow's base, that's the strategy that he's going with.
Stream coming through, and with the pawns dancing over that reclaim field, there would have been, what do we think, 1,500 metal eaten during that engagement, which has turned directly into more pawns hitting the front line.
The production has definitely slowed down now that the reclaim is no longer coming in, but at the moment, the units that you don't need whistlers at the moment. What you need is a massive amount of stouts to combat this. We actually have a resign vote coming from the red player. One of the things that we've not been picking up on while this is going on is the transition to hovers that the light blue player has done and managed to completely take on the navy.
Speaking of stouts,
that's exactly what's coming
in
out,
with a whole bunch of brutes.
Yeah. So stouts coming out of the green player now, brutes going into the orange player, and hovers coming up into the red player. This is definitely turned quite well against the red team. Unfortunately, orange never overly able to participate in this game, leaving the dark blue player capable of harassing red instead of having to take on his own lane. Yellow definitely had the opportunity to do a lot of damage to green, but they've actually been very, very even on these trades. The pawn's doing well, but not able to completely overwhelm and get into those numbers. Com going down in the orange base to those brutes. Brutes a little bit too close to the com, so a lot of them went down, but a com is a com and a base is a base, and these brutes have done exactly what they needed to do, and the hovers are coming down to finish this up as well. Large numbers.
Just the red commander as the final one. The yellow one died up on the hill next to green.
And the red com is, well, the red com looks like he self-detonated right there. So a resounding victory for the blue team. solid defense and very strong offense from those guys. And as I've said in the comments, this turned into a 2v3 because unfortunately the orange player just wasn't quite able to hold up his end, and the two higher OS players on his team just weren't able to overcome that.
And you can see the real difference that comes when you start fighting sort of 1v1 through your lane to having the pressure coming in from a flank. Really stresses your micro, and often it means that the front collapses behind you, even if your front didn't actually lose per se.
Looking at the metal produced and energy produced graphs, you see 5 of the players actually running reasonably even, with the exception of Red, who just could not build up that eco in the sea. And then Orange falling well and truly behind on all of those because he unable to defend his base, and then Eco off in the background. Similar story with damage dealt. All of the players ending up in the top 15% except for Orange. Very, very passive, defensive through the game, and unable to bring firepower to bear. And
I think one of the key takeaways was the teamwork from the blue side, supporting each other through those middle lanes, and probably Red making a poor decision with the Navy start.
Definitely a poor decision with the Navy start. And the early pings showed off the map control and the map awareness of the blue players as well. And as you said during the game a couple of times, those combined pushes coming in from two areas at once forced the yellow player in particular to divide his attention and micro much harder and less effectively.
Yep.
On that note, I think we'll leave this one there. And if you enjoyed the video, just drop us a like and a subscribe. Let us know in the comments if you've got anything you want us to hear. And otherwise, jump on down into the description, join us on our Discord, submit any games you want us to do a replay on, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.